Watch and burn.
Hey everybody. So tonight I am going to be discussing the 1985, the financially well received, but the critically poorly received 1985 film St. Elmo's Fire, starring the Brat Pack. Oh fuck, Demi Moore's in this. She wasn't fully part of the Brat Pack, but Demi Moore's in this. Sheedy's in this. Emilio Estevez is in this. Judd Nelson is in this. Andie MacDowell. I always get early 80s Andie MacDowell mixed up with early 80s Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Andie MacDowell is in this for like 30 seconds. Who else is in this? Rob Lowe, the incredibly good-looking Rob Lowe, is in this when he was at the peak of his good looks. Mare Winningham is in this. She's so adorable. Now, okay, when I was a kid, I'd always sort of, like, as a joke, related this and the movie The Big Chill together, because this, as a joke, again, I don't mean this seriously, but growing up, I always sort of saw this as sort of the characters from The Big Chill before they grew up. Now, I know now that this movie, the characters in this are a little on the vapid side, and there's not a lot of depth to any of them, so it does lack the focus and the attention that, of course, everybody put into the movie The Big Chill, so I couldn't be more wrong, but nevertheless, that's how I've always kind of reasoned this out in my head. And what I love about this movie is obviously the track St. Elmo's Fire by John Parr, as well as Stressed Out, Close to the Edge by Airplay. They're like two of like my favorite songs from that decade ever, and they're both on the soundtrack for this movie. You could also sort of maybe make the argument that this is one of those times when the soundtrack was greater than the film and that it's anchored around, because they're just kids. I get it. Emilio Estevez is working at the bar they all hang out at. Otherwise, it's called St. Elmo's Bar. Wow, look at that. You probably just put together what the titles it got. Well, actually, no, you wouldn't, because St. Elmo's Fire is this electricity, like lightning plasma thing that happens in St. Elmo's Bar. Yeah, that comment made no sense. That was really stupid. But yeah, what else did I want to say about this? Yeah, that's right. This movie was directed and co-written by Joel Schumacher, who critics at the time called completely untalented and said he would go nowhere as the result of releasing this film that they hated into the world. It was a financial success. The kids loved it because the Brat Packers are in it, and you know, if you saw The Breakfast Club, you're going to go see this. And whereas, yeah, it's not the deepest movie, but it is fun, and it's incredibly watchable, and I don't understand why everybody was so rough on it. And just for the record, Joel Schumacher would go on to direct, like, Flatliners and The Lost Boys and Falling Down. So calling him talentless was a little short-sighted on the critics' part at this point. And, oh my god, somebody from Consequences of Sound back in, like, the mid 2010s or so, 2015, 2016, went on record as saying this is like the worst movie ever made. And then they went on to thrash the soundtrack too, which I think is crazy because this is, again, one of those times when the soundtrack might just be greater than the film it was written around. I do love this movie. This movie, nothing really happens though. They just kind of party their way through it. Rob Lowe's got a kid. He knows he's not going to be able to stay a dad because he's too much of he's too off the rails, and he ends up moving to New York. And the fucking Andrew McCarthy's in this, and he's in love with Sheedy, but Sheedy's dating Judd Nelson, and Judd Nelson's cheating on her all the time. Judd Nelson works for, I think, a governor or a senator. He's very full of himself. And Emilio Estevez is in love with Andie MacDowell's character. And, I mean, this movie doesn't really go to many places. There are a few beautiful shots. When it's Mare Winningham and I think it's Sheedy are discussing Demi Moore's sort of drug and financial downturn, and this one shot when they're walking across the river, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So calling Schumacher talentless again is just so completely uncalled for. This movie is, of course, far from perfect. It's, like I said at the start, the characters are kind of vapid, sort of empty. They're only into themselves. And there is no way that this should be related to a much more serious and more mature film like The Big Chill. But I've done that since I was a kid, and that's why I said that. What else did I want to say about this? That's it, actually. Other than the fact that, my God, Demi Moore could not be more 80s. Jesus Christ. I know it's the 80s at this point, but nevertheless, she is like hyper 80s in this mid 80s movie. And yeah. So if you Like your teen Brat Pack movies, like this lacks the depth and the weight of The Breakfast Club. This movie isn't nearly as much fun as, well, wait, no, I was going to say Pretty in Pink, but fuck, Pretty in Pink is no fun. I meant to say 16 Candles. So if you want another fun Brat Pack-ish movie, find 16 Candles. This movie's fun, but it just kind of ends up living in a circle. You know, it's like nothing happens at the beginning. It's the same shit at the end, other than Rob Lowe leaves and Ali Sheedy decides she wants to be alone. Demi Moore does attempt to commit suicide, but it's like the lamest attempt ever because she just sits in a room with all her windows open in what's left of her apartment trying to freeze to death, and all her friends try to like weld their way, cut through the security bars on her window using like a welding torch to get to her. Yeah, I mean, the movie is far from perfect, but God, it's gorgeous. First off, the visuals, it's stunning. It's really good looking. Everybody in it's fun, and everybody in it can act. But yeah, there's not a lot going on here, despite the fact that I love it. And that's it. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little over 6 minutes while I discuss the financially successful and yet the critical failure that was the 1985 film St. Elmo's Fire. If you haven't heard the title track, Jesus Christ, check that out. Unless you don't like 80s music, in which case don't bother. But if you love 80s music, you've most likely already heard St. Elmo's Fire. It's great. Oh my God. Because I'm going to be your man in motion. All I need's a pair of wheels. Like always, if you like this review, don't forget to go out and do something nice for somebody. Maybe you could watch this movie with them. And yeah, you could do that because this movie's kind of fun. And don't forget that the world is so much more fun because you are in it. I'm getting out of here. Have a good night.